So welcome back. We'll start with this prayer. Om Adnyanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome back. So yesterday we started talking about this heart-touching topic of spiritual diet.
Before you ask questions, they are written.
Is it? So we are covering the series of ABCD. A for association, B for books like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, C for chanting, D for diet. And in this week, we are doing the topic of diet. We are covering the topic of diet, spiritual diet. So we covered the basics or the fundamentals yesterday. So let us see what all you remember from our yesterday's discussion. Ruby?
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Ishan.
Lord is the source of getting food, eating food, and even digesting the food. The devotees of Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat the food which is offered first for sacrifice to the Supreme Lord.
Very good, very good. Ishan.
Yes, taken notes.
Very good. Pundarikaksha Prabhu.
You have to come near the mic, Varshita.
We couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
If you don't take food, your mind won't work.
Yes. Manmohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, we
Yes.
discussed that the food cooked in the mood of goodness will strengthen our body, purifies our mind, helps in doing progress in spiritual life.
Yes. Excellent. Sannivas Prabhu.
If we offer food to the Lord, we will be free from all sins.
Please come near the mic. Yeah.
If we offer food to the Lord, we will be free from sins.
Okay, fine. Nikhil.
Prasadam is the mercy of the Lord.
Yes, mercy of the Lord. Aditya Prabhu or Vichitra Prabhu?
I was going to say the same thing that Suraj said.
Oh, good. Okay. Kirtivanta Prabhu?
You can go. Okay, Prabhu, it's all bodies come from food grains, which arise because of rains, which come from performance of yajna, which are prescribed in the Vedas, which come from the Supreme Lord.
Oh, very good. Excellent, Prabhu. Ramakrishna Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. We have started about three aspects of food. That's gross, middle, and subtle for food and water.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good. Senthil Prabhu?
If we eat junk food, our body will get affected. So we should cook at home and offer it to the God, and the mercy of the God will not affect our body.
Jai. Very good. Excellent. All right. So we'll continue from there and see further what we can learn today about the spiritual diet. So today's topic is the food in three modes. So we saw yesterday that the food that we eat also has a subtle component. It has a gross component, which we evacuate in the morning. But the subtle component which is there in the food, that actually affects the mind. And this mind affect or the control over the mind is so important. So if you want to actually become peaceful person, then what is required is the mind needs to be peaceful. If you want to become a happy or positive person, again, the mind needs to be happy and positive. If you want to make any spiritual progress, then our mind needs to be controlled. And if you want to focus while chanting, many of you have this, or everyone has this problem that the mind wanders here, there, everywhere while we are chanting. So for that, the mind needs to be calm so that it can sit at one place and focus on it. Otherwise, it will keep wandering here and there. And if you want to have even peaceful sleep, for that as well, the food that we eat has some effect. So no matter whether you're a spiritual practitioner wanting to advance spiritually, or you just want to become a peaceful, calm, positive person, which everyone wants to become, so you will still get benefited from this knowledge that we are going to talk about today, which is given by Lord Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita about food. So Bhagavad Gita is a practical book. The knowledge that is there in Bhagavad Gita can be implemented in our life. And today's example, or today whatever we are going to discuss, that will actually make it even very clear. So Lord Krishna categorizes the food in three modes. So mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. Sattva guna, Rajo guna, and Tamo guna. So how do we know that what food is in which mode? So by looking at three things that we can see this. One thing is, look at which kind of people are getting attracted to that type of food. So automatically the people in mode of goodness gets attracted to the food which is in mode of goodness. People who are in mode of passion, Rajoguna, they will automatically get attracted to food which is in mode of passion. And the people in mode of ignorance will automatically get attracted to food in mode of ignorance. And the second thing that we can see, that what is the result of eating that kind of food? Because the Sattvagun, Rajogun and Tamogun characteristics are known. So are the food that we are eating, or is the food that we are eating creating the result which is in mode of goodness or passion or ignorance? So that is the second thing that we can see to understand whether the food is in mode of goodness, passion or ignorance. And the third thing is, what are the inherent qualities of the food? Because some foods, depending on the smell that it gives, or depending on when it was cooked, or whether it is decomposed or whatever, based on the qualities of the food, we can also understand whether the food is in mode of goodness, passion or ignorance. So these are the three things that we are going to look at. So let's start. So first of all, so these verses are coming from the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is titled as Divisions of Faith. So these verses that we are going to look at are verse number 8, 9 and 10, 17.8, 17.9 and 17.10. And these three verses gives us the food which is in mode of goodness, then mode of passion and mode of ignorance. So let's recite this. Ayu sattva balarogya
Ayu sattva balarogya
Sukha priti vivardhanaha
Sukha priti vivardhanaha
Rasya snigdha sthira hridya
Rasya snigdha stiraritya
Ahara satvika priyaha.
Ahara satvika priyaha.
So what are the qualities and what is the result of eating food which is in mode of goodness? So this verse is telling us that foods dear to those in mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Who would not want all of these? So it gives duration, it increases the duration of life, purifies one's existence, gives strength health, happiness, and satisfaction. And what is the quality of the food? So how do we identify what is the food which is in mode of goodness? Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. So if we are in mode of goodness, automatically this food that is mentioned here, rasya, snigdha, sthira, rudya, that kind of food we will be interested in eating. And what is it going to give us? It is going to give us, for the body, it is going to give us duration of life. So it is increasing the duration of life. So longer life. It gives us strength. So for body, it gives strength and health, healthy body. And for the mind and soul, what is happening? We are getting, existence is getting purified. We are getting happiness and satisfaction. So this is the effect of the food which is in mode of goodness. And the characteristic of food is juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. So rasya, juicy. So like fruits. Fatty is not like the fat from the animals. Like it is not the killing of animals and then eating them and that kind of fat that we are talking about. We are talking about food which is in mode of goodness. So goodness is milk, cheese, paneer, butter, ghee, all of that is the fatty food that is being referred here. The wholesome food like vegetables, grains, and all of these should be pleasing to the heart. So these are some of the examples of the food which is in mode of goodness. Even by looking at it, we get peace of mind and satisfaction. Fruits, vegetables, grains, milk products like that, sugar, all of these things can be covered into, and the nuts, they can be covered into mode of goodness. Right, then we will move on to food which is in mode of passion. So that is from verse number 17.9. So this is a summary. So juicy, fatty, wholesome, pleasing to the heart, which is mode of goodness, and that gives increase the duration of life, purifies one's existence, gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Then now mode of passion food. Katva amla lavanatya ushna
कट्वा आम्ललवणात्युष्ण
tikshna ruksha vidahinaha
तीक्ष्णवृक्षविदाहिनः
ahara rajasa seshta
आहारा राजसश्रेष्ठा
dukkha shokamaya pradaha.
दुःखशोकामयप्रदः.
So look at the words. So earlier we were talking about Ayu Sattva Bala Rogya. And now the words are Katu, Amla, Lavanatya, Ushna, Tikshna, Ruksha, Vidahina. So even the words itself are telling us that where we are going to go from here. So what is the translation? So translation for this verse is foods that are too bitter. So too bitter means Katva. Then too sour, Amla. Too salty, that Lavana. Then hot, Atiushna. Pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. Dukkha, shoka, amaya, pradaha. So while eating this food, there is distress. For example, that you are eating too much chili, so too spicy. Tears will come out, ears and face will become red. But if you ask this person who's in mode of passion, how is it? You are looking at it and you are thinking, "Arey, this person must be suffering. That everything has become red and the tears are coming out." And then he'll say, "Maza aa gaya. Maza aa raha." So that means the food as well as the person who's eating is in mode of passion because they are liking the food like this. And what is going to happen after that? The distress, misery, and disease. So distress is coming now while eating. Misery will be in the morning when you are trying to pass it out. And the disease is going to come over a period of time. And we'll see what kind of disease that we are talking about with some examples. So first, let's see what kind of food we are talking about. So onion and garlic, too much chili. So pungent, onion and garlic, because we talked about pungent food. Onion and garlic are they are actually both passion as well as ignorance. So we'll see that again in mode of ignorance. So it creates pungent, so it creates mode of passion. Too much chili, too much salt, too much hot, too much pepper, like everything, like anything too much is going to create this problem for us. So this is the summary. Distress, misery, and disease are going to come. So what kind of disease we are talking about? So if we eat, say, suppose too much chili, then stomach ulcers will come, gastritis, insomnia. Because insomnia is when you are eating the food which is in mode of passion, the body temperature goes up. And till the time your body temperature doesn't come down to normal temperature, you cannot sleep properly. So if you have eaten too much chili or too much the food which is all in mode of passion, then you will not get very peaceful sleep. Then too much salt, then you will get high blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes, like that. Then onion and garlic, if you are eating, then bad breath, body odors, low blood sugar, heartburn, increases bleeding, like so many problems which we can get from the food of passion. And there are many other examples like that. So I'm just giving a very small sample of it. Then let us see what is the food in mode of ignorance, which is the next verse, which is 17.10 now. Yata yamam gatarasam
यातयामं गतरसं
puti paryushitam chayat
पूतिपर्युषितं च यत्
uchishtam apichamedhyam
उच्छिष्टम् अपि चामेध्यं
bhojanam tamasapriyam.
भोजनं तामसप्रियम्.
So food in your ignorance is described here. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten. That is yatayamam. Yatayamam means it is stale food. Food that is tasteless, gatarasam. So this is in contrast to what we saw in food which is in mode of goodness, which was rasya. But here it is gatarasam. So it is food that is tasteless. Paryushitam chayat. So that is decomposed and putrid. Puti means actually it smells bad. And paryushitam is that it is decomposed and putrid. And uchishtam, so food consisting of remnants and untouchable. So untouchable is amedhyam. So all of these food is dear to those in mode of darkness or ignorance. So what are some of the examples? So again, the food which is in mode of ignorance. So it was puti. Puti means it smells bad. So onion and garlic, it smells very bad. Then mushrooms, because they actually grow in darkness. That is why they are also considered food which is in mode of darkness. Then anything, it is said that it is amedhyam. Amedhyam means untouchable food. Now people who were quite learned and following the Vedic scriptures, for them the food like meat, fish, eggs, or anything in that category, or intoxicants like liquor, or even tea and coffee, they will be untouchable for these people. So they are covered into that amedhya part. So any food like this is going to actually create mode of ignorance in us. So what actually is the effect? So old and stale food. So if the food which is cooked more than 3 hours before, so the idea is that the food in mode of goodness is very fresh food. You are cooking and eating. Of course, there is one exception for that. So the prasadam can be taken after 3 hours as well. Prasadam can be even few days old as well, and as long as it is not decomposed and it is still okay, we can eat that prasadam, because prasadam is transcendental. It is beyond modes. So by eating the food which is in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, we develop that kind of mode. But because prasadam is transcendental, which is beyond the modes, it doesn't affect us from the modes perspective, material modes perspective. And the food which is tasteless, decomposed and putrid, and remnants are untouchable. So remnants means if somebody has already eaten and then you are trying to eat that food, which is the uchishta. So that food is also creates darkness. So mode of ignorance. And it, of course, it creates infection, disease like corona. All of that can come because of the infectious thing that we are taking. But there is again one exception here, that the food which is offered to the Lord. So that means it is uchishta of the Lord, that food we can eat, because that is actually Mahaprasad of the Supreme Lord. Not only the Supreme Lord, but also his devotees, especially the pure devotees, if we eat their remnants as well, that is also going to be useful for us. That is also going to be better for us. So the remnants of the Lord and his pure devotees, if we take, that is allowed, and that is actually transcendental. That will help us progress in our spiritual life. But anyone else, if we try to do, then that is not a good idea. So what is the result of this? So the result is not specifically mentioned in the verse, but generally the result of the food which is in mode of ignorance, or the characteristics of mode of ignorance, is it creates laziness. You remain very sleepy, and then there is madness and foolishness. Now, what kind of madness and foolishness we are talking? It is from the spiritual perspective. Materially, maybe this person who's eating meat, egg, fish, and having drinks and whatever, he may be materially intelligent, but he is not understanding the spiritual significance of the food. And just by eating that kind of food, he is actually going spiritually down and down. So that is what he's not understanding. That is why it is said that it is creating the mode of ignorance, which is madness and foolishness. So which kind of food then we can offer to the Lord? So the Lord has already mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that part as well. So in the 9th chapter, 26th verse, the Lord says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam
Patram pushpam phalam toyam.
yo me bhaktya prayachati
Yo me bhaktya prayachati.
tadaham bhaktya upavritam
Tadaham bhakti upavartam.
ashnami prayatatmanaha.
Asnami prayatatmanah.
So the Lord is saying, if one offers me patram pushpam phalam toyam, so if one offers me with love, so how he wants? Yome bhaktya prayachati and tadaham bhaktya upavritam. So with love, with devotion, if we offer him, he will accept a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. So it is very simple. So his requirements are not quite complex, but he's giving us a flavor of what kind of food he likes. So from the description, we can see that the food which is in mode of goodness, like leafy vegetables or leaf like tulsi leaf, flowers, then fruits, and then water like that, we can offer to the Lord. So of course, he hasn't given the exhaustive list of what things we can offer, but we can understand that the food which is in mode of goodness is the food that we are able to offer to the Supreme Lord. And then he will accept it if we offer it with love and devotion, and then that food is going to make prasadam for us. So it is up to us that, based on the principle that we were talking about yesterday, the garbage in, garbage out. So if you put food which is in mode of ignorance into our body, then of course the mode of ignorance is going to get developed, and that is how we are going to behave with others. If we put mode of goodness though in us, then of course our mode of goodness will be developed, and our mind will be more peaceful, satisfied, and happy like that. And beyond that, if we actually eat prasadam, which is transcendental, which is beyond three modes, then it can actually take us beyond the three modes and make us free from all the sinful reactions. And then that is how we will progress spiritually. So we'll stop here and we'll seek any questions or comments. Oh, quiz. Yes, I remember there was a quiz as well. So please raise your hand. This is a very simple quiz. I have put some food items here, and please tell me which mode they are in, and raise your hands quickly. So first one is simple, mango. Kritivanta Prabhu.
More of goodness.
Mode of goodness. Good. Then second one, garlic. Pundarikaksha Prabhu.
It's more of passion and ignorance.
Very good. Excellent. Then the third one is meat. Deepashikha Mata.
Mode of ignorance.
More of darkness.
Mode of darkness. Yes, that's correct. The next one, egg. Sannivas Prabhu.
Mode of passion.
Mode of passion. Egg. Nikhil Prabhu.
More of darkness.
Mode of ignorance.
Yes, very good. Excellent. Too much chili. Aditya Prabhu.
Mode of passion.
Very good. Excellent. The next one. Whole week's food you have cooked and frozen then. Actually, only when you are asked if you can respond, that will be good. I am muting you all again. Yatin Prabhu.
More of ignorance.
Yes, very good. Mode of ignorance. Then rice. Deepashikha Mataji.
Mode of goodness.
Very good. Then the next one. Milk. Vikas Prabhu.
Goodness.
Very good. Burning hot vegetarian soup. Ramakrishna Prabhu.
Mode of passion, Prabhu.
Yeah, very good. Then burning hot chicken soup. Hey, hey.
Dikshita.
Dikshita.
Mode of ignorance.
Okay, very good. Yeah, actually, she knows. She in schools and everywhere, she asks if somebody offers her anything. Then Sharadi and Dikshita both are quite intelligent. They will ask what is the content, and then they will understand that food is in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, and only then they will eat. Very good. Then the next one is alcohol. Who should I ask? Shiva Prabhu.
Ignorance, Prabhuji.
Okay. Spinach. Srinivas Ganji Prabhu.
Mode of goodness, Prabhu.
Okay, goodness. Yes. Done. Okay. So, all right. That was. So, okay, there were a few more hands which are still raised. Are they for questions?
Yes, questions.
Okay, we'll take those questions. Senthil Prabhu, what is your question?
Prabhuji, not our question, for your question. Quiz.
Oh, you are still raising for that. Okay, I'll ask you one question.
For Yalini.
Yalini, tell me, chapati, roti, is that in which mode?
Goodness.
Mode of goodness? Okay, I'll ask you one more. What is the food which has too much salt in it?
Salt.
Salt.
No. Mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance?
Salt அதிகமா இருந்தா எந்த mode? Passion.
Passion.
Okay, good. Okay, Ishan, you also had raised your hand. Okay. I'll ask you. Hare Krishna?
It was for the quiz only.
Quiz? Okay, I'll ask you 2 or 3. Okay, tell me, what is egg coming into which mode?
Ignorance.
Okay, mode of ignorance. What about fish?
Ignorance.
Okay. What about paneer? Very good.
Goodness.
Excellent. Right. Thank you. Okay, now let's move on to some questions. So I'll lower the hand for Yalini. I'm thinking. So I'll take the questions now. So Deepashikha Mataji, do you have a question?
Yeah,
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Want to ask you, when we were talking about mode of passion food, and garlic and onion is considered as mode of passion as well as mode of ignorance. So is it too much of use of garlic or onion, or is it prohibited completely?
Yeah, onion and garlic actually creates this mode of passion and ignorance into us. And only when we were talking about mode of passion, it was about using it too much. But when we are using it in mode of ignorance, there was nothing like too much which was mentioned. So that
Okay.
means any use of onion and garlic creates mode of passion and ignorance into us. And especially those who want to actually progress spiritually and want to have their mind controlled, they want their mind to be very peaceful. And for that, the mind, any food that actually agitates your mind should be avoided. So if you want to actually develop mode of goodness, which is very conducive for spiritual progress, it is better to avoid food which is in mode of passion and ignorance. And especially for devotees, because we can only eat food that can be offered to the Lord, and the Lord only accepts food which is in mode of goodness. That is why we can only eat food which is in mode of goodness, which is offered to the Lord and eaten.
Okay. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vikas Prabhu?
I have a question. Is too much sugar in the in passion?
Oh, too much sugar? Yeah,
Yes.
anything that will actually do too much is not good.
Okay.
It is not specifically mentioned, but anything that we actually do too much, for example, there is a principle, even for prasad, which is cooked properly, atyahar of that prasad is not going to be good, because anything that we eat too much is going to lead to some diseases. So we cannot say that, oh, because the prasadam is in mode of Shuddha Sattva, but the problem is that our body is not in Shuddha Sattva yet. So that is how it can affect us. So anything that we take too much will create problems for us.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Babu Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Where does ginger come into the picture?
Ginger can be considered as a mode of goodness. But of course, if we use too much, then that will be again a problem. So
Of course.
normally it is a mode of goodness.
Thank you, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Ruby, you have some question? Or Ishan?
I have a question.
Yes.
Like even eggs come, milk and paneer comes from the animals, but
Yes.
why is it still like used in mode of goodness?
Yeah, so milk and paneer, the category of mode of goodness doesn't say that we should not be having any product which is coming from the animal. But how it comes is more important. So milk, yeah. So milk that we get from the cow is it is an eatable which is okay for us. The human beings can consume it, and actually it is going to create mode of goodness into that person. Whereas from the egg from the egg you can get another animal, right? And
Yes.
because of that, and even if Sati, there are various different questions or the arguments that people give that some eggs are infertile and so that is not coming like that. But in normal situation, if you see, the eggs gives the life. So that means that kind of food is actually going to create mode of ignorance into us. And that is the reason why we are not eating. So the food which is coming from milk, and as long as the cows are being treated properly, and then that kind of milk we are taking, and that milk we are taking after the calves have had enough, because cows give enough milk which is more than the calves can drink. If the cows are loved properly and taken care of properly, they will give milk for very many months and many years as well. And that kind of food we can have. And we can really see from the example of the Supreme Lord himself when he came. When the Supreme Lord came, the Supreme Lord Krishna, we see that he used to love the cows and he used to drink the milk. He used to drink and he used to eat the butter and the buttermilk and ghee like that. And from that example, we can understand that that kind of food is okay for us, and that is why we can take.
Even my mother has a question.
Okay.
Actually, sometimes we want to taste the food before offering the prasadam to check all the ingredients are in proper proportion or not.
Okay.
So, is it allowed?
Yeah. So actually, this in Shastra, it is called Paka Kala. So it is an art, Paka Shastra or Paka Kala. So it is art as well as science. The cooking is an art and science. So we should actually be so expert over a period of time that we are putting the ingredients properly, and that will actually create the item perfectly. And when we do like that, then there is no need to taste. But when in the beginning we are trying to do, then we should try to learn from some books which are giving the perfect quantity of ingredients so that we don't have to taste it. So when we are actually doing it for the Lord, it is not recommended that we should taste it. We should just offer it perfectly. We should cook it perfectly and then offer it to the Lord like that.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Vikas Prabhu, you have a question? Or was that the hand raised before?
It was from before.
Okay, fine. Ram Mohan Prabhu from Hamilton, you have some question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Just some technical questions like cheese, which is stored for 3 months for maturation, fermentation. Is it considered, which is it a milk product or it's a long storage product? And also there are a few things like pickles as well come into that area where we store it for too long. And also some of the things we make, the snacks, the poppers and all that, where do they come into?
Yeah, good question, Prabhuji. So there are many items, for example, ghee, which is made from milk over a period of like through the process. They have long shelf life. And those kind of food, if we keep it for a while, then that is fine. The food which is cooked and then we are keeping it, that is where we are having a problem. But the raw ingredients, for example, vegetables as well, you may bring and you may keep it for 2-3 days, or even fruits, we may keep it for a week as well, and then it can be consumed. So it is for the raw items, that is not a problem, like milk, cheese, ghee, butter, like that, that's fine. Of course, for the cheese, you should be sure that it is a vegetable source. Here in Western world, you get all kinds of nonsense in the cheese, which has animal products as well. Even in yogurt as well, in the supermarket yogurt, they have gelatin. So you have to see it properly before you buy these items. Then things like pickle. Most of the time, pickle comes into a mode of passion because it has too much spices and too many other items. That is why if you actually consume it very little in your food, in your plate, then that is okay. That is not considered then too much. But if you consume quite a lot, pickle as a sabji, if you take, then that becomes a problem. And if that is cooked properly using the mode of goodness mentality and like the mood, then it will be much different than the pickle that is available in the supermarket, in the shops. Like your mother or they used to make, or the grandmothers used to make, those homemade pickles were quite in mode of goodness. Is that okay, Prabhuji?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Manmohan Prabhu, Neha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
Yes.
I have two questions, but not really long. The first one is that I want to ask that what about the sweets, Prabhuji? As you said, that too much of sweet is also comes in the ignorance, right? So, passion. So when you cook like gulab jamun or rasgullas, you put a lot of sweets in it to give a good flavor. So
Yeah.
what about that food? And the second question is that
Okay,
what
let me
about
answer one at a time. I will forget the first question before when you ask the second. So, if you cook gulab jamun, Mataji, it all depends on how many you eat. So, if you eat in a limited quantity, then that is fine, good for your health, no problem. But if you eat too many, then that will become a problem. So, from that perspective, then we are talking about. Otherwise,
and
sweet item itself, while making whatever the recipe is, that is okay. But when you start consuming that too much, then you are taking too much sugar in.
thank you, Prabhuji. And the second question, Prabhuji, what about the fizzy drinks like Sprite and Fanta and the chocolates?
Yeah, so chocolate comes from cocoa, and the cocoa also has similar ingredients as coffee. Very, very close to. There are 2 or 3 ingredients: thiamine and theobromine, and which are like intoxicants, and that creates our attachment to it so much that we want to have it more and more. It is like the people who drink, then over a period of time they will get addicted to it. The people who drink tea and coffee, you ask them to give up tea and coffee, it becomes very, very difficult because you get addicted to it. It's similar with chocolate as well. So that is why the chocolate which has cocoa, which is also considered in mode of ignorance. And what was the other fizzy drinks that you talked about? Fizzy drinks, generally most of the fizzy drinks that you see in the market, they have caffeine in it. So because it has caffeine, it comes into mode of ignorance. But there are 1 or 2, so you better actually check. It is actually not good for your health anyway, the fizzy drinks. So because it has too much sugar in it. So if it is caffeine free, and if it is you are drinking it little bit, then it should be okay. But generally, it is best to avoid it.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, fine. So I'll take Babu Prabhu. What is your question?
It was same as the last time. The hand
Oh, right,
was
right.
raised.
Okay, fine. That is okay. Deepashika Mataji, yours also is a hand raised from earlier.
No. What about the milk from the other animals like goat and camel? Because in other countries, this is also very popular. So
Yeah.
does it come in mode of goodness?
No, as the Shastra clearly says that the milk only from the cow, not even from buffalo.
Okay.
So only cow milk is considered into mode of goodness, because cow milk has a special ingredient. The Shastra says that when you drink cow milk, then your brain cells, there is a special effect that it creates, and the brain becomes very conducive for getting spiritual knowledge. So that is why the devotees drink cow milk.
So goat's milk doesn't give you spiritual knowledge, no?
No, it doesn't come in mode of goodness, so it doesn't develop mode of goodness for you.
So it's just normal.
Yeah.
Hare
All right.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Bharadwaj Shri Prabhu, you have some quick question, and that is the last one we will take, and we'll close.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, earlier we were talking about food, decomposed food. Food actually doesn't decompose just in a fraction of second. Like it's a process that takes place. Slowly, gradually it decomposes. Like and then we only smell it bad when it's like it reaches certain stage.
Yeah.
So does it mean that if we after like 3 hours, like Krishna was saying, after 3 hours, does it mean that the food actually starts to decompose and then we should not take it?
Yeah. So it says actually 3 hours, mainly because to encourage that we should eat fresh food. If we want to actually have mode of goodness and prasad, then obviously we would want, that means you have deities at home. And if deities are at home, you have to treat them as a person. And if you're treating deities as a person and as a guest, for if some guests come to your house, then we give them food which is freshly cooked. Like that, if the deities are at home and they are the master of the place and we are their servants, then we have to cook fresh for lunch and dinner, and then we have to offer it. So from that perspective, that is why it is that 3-4 hours of time has been mentioned. But the idea is that after 3-4 hours, the food becomes, which are like sabjis or whatever. From the Ayurveda's perspective, they are saying that it goes to that stage where it should not be consumed.
Because earlier you also said, Prabhuji, like that the food, I mean, our bodies are still not pure enough to, take on that decomposed food, or,
Correct.
yeah. So does it mean, like, we should avoid as much as possible?
Yes, Prabhu. So we should avoid, definitely, we should avoid as much as possible. And when I was talking about Krishna Prasad, that you can have, even it is a little bit more than 3-4 hours old, generally that is referring to, for example, somebody is coming from Vrindavan or Tirupati and you are getting laddu, which is a dry prasadam.
Right.
And that has little bit longer life. So you should not say that, oh, this laddu which has come from Tirupati, which is now more than 3-4 hours old,
Yes,
so I
Prabhuji.
cannot have it. If you're not having it, pass it on to me, I'll have it.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Please
Okay.
pass it to us as well, Prabhuji.
Okay, so we'll stop here. I see that there are a few more questions, but we can take them tomorrow, or you send me those questions and I'll answer them. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.